Hey, it's Swigs. So I wanted to take a video and go over the blossoming love affair that I'm having with the plasma gun right now. It's been honestly tons of fun, and has been helping tide me over waiting for the Meltagun, which I absolutely still need. Please, I beg of you, Fat Shark, I need... But anyway, this toaster oven looking death box is built with a severe disregard for basically anything but the toughest heretics. And even those that don't end up looking like a bomb pop on a summer sidewalk from a single shot don't need much encouragement to get to the other side afterwards. The only thing it's more known for than heretic liquefaction is its love-hate relationship with the person holding it, having one of the worst reload animations, and also the unique ability to go gadget IED in your hands mid-use, reducing you to meat and bone shrapnel. So it can kind of be a mixed bag and have a slight learning curve to get used to, especially if you haven't played Psyker, since the heat mechanic is basically a carbon copy of the Psyker's peril system. But after a little bit of time to get the hang of it, you've got a handheld piece of artillery at your disposal. And so that's the goal of this video, to help teach fellow guardsmen how to make sure the only person's skin that's melting from radioactive plasma are the ones on the other side of the barrel. But before we get started, a channel update. We're officially approved for channel memberships and supers. And any new channel members don't just get my undying gratitude, but also a credit at the end of all my videos. And have a question or suggestions for a future video? Well, bam, priority response time in the comments. Not to mention, I wouldn't mind having an extra fun video idea either, so, it goes both ways. Also, until we hit that ripe era of 1,000 subscribers, I don't really get a dime from watch ads, so it really goes a long way to supporting the channel. But regardless, a serious thanks for all the support, and it really means a lot seeing all the genuine, kind comments on the videos, and how much you guys are really getting out of it, and you varlets are really just too good for me, and I can't thank you enough. Whew. I think there's something in my eye there for a second. Back to the video! First, let's cover the basics of this death machine. The weapon uses two firing modes, a hip-fire light shot, so to speak, which is quicker to charge and fire repeatedly, and a brace mode, which will charge a heavy shot and can be held freely at the ready to unleash a more powerful attack. There's also some room in the middle, as the heavy shot doesn't require being fully charged to fire, using just a little bit less ammo and yielding a slightly weaker punch to it. Each of these shots also possess varying cleave values, with the light shot able to penetrate 2 poxwalkers before detonating on the third, and the fully charged heavy shot able to penetrate a nuclear family of 4 poxwalkers before detonating on the fifth. And as for ammo, the light shot will use 3 counts of ammo per shot, with the charged shot using between 7 and 9 counts of ammunition, depending on the level of spicy charged up. And all these attacks are generating that spicy heat, which means that you need to be venting that so that you aren't creating a model demon core in your guardsman's hands. While you can wait for the weapon to gently disperse its radioactivity into the open air, you can also vent it manually and take some quality chunks of heat out at a time. At higher levels, this does cause toughness damage, but it can basically be ignored now, especially if you're running confirmed kill and already generating toughness from what you just killed. It used to take health directly and slowly kill you throughout the match, but they decided it was a bad idea for this gun to act a little too realistically to the user. The weapon can also be completely cooled if you pass the first stage of its reloading animation. However, reloading magically via other means like sustained fire does not automatically vent your gun, as it's connected specifically to the stage of the animation itself. And disregarding that your weapon's heat is at 100% and launching a heavy shot locks your gun into a meltdown state, which will play a cute wind-up animation before exploding in a nuclear fireball, knocking you down instantly. Fortunately, this is only the case for the heavy shot, and Plasma Gun likely has one of the only safety features in the entire Imperium of Man. Any light shot fired at critical heat will force a vent event instead, which knocks off 20% heat in place of fatally maiming you, which frankly is a pretty good deal. This makes it a much safer option if you are freaking out and need to spam fire into a horde of ragers or a conga line of crushers. And one rad as hell feature of my little Chernobyl is that its violent bursts of plasma fire can actually penetrate through terrain. Light shots are a bit less impressive, but still penetrate softer or thinner cover. A fully charged heavy shot, however, can punch through some thick concrete on its way to sledgifying a target. This cover does still interact with the cleave system and will steal the heftier first target damage values, but the damage is still plenty powerful, and combined with your volley fire wall hacks, you can ensure there is no hiding from your weapon's judgment. This perk of the weapon is still kinda iffy though, and take a little bit of experimentation to get a knack for what counts and what doesn't for passable terrain at any given charge value. But you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so it's a fun little game of if that gunner really is safe behind their precious little concrete wall or not. And for whatever reason, it's much faster to draw than weapons like the bolt gun, so you can sling it on in if you have a long enough respite from melee combat. Even the light shot still has a slight delay to charge up though, so it's not like you can quick draw it like a cowboy and fire immediately, but it's definitely come in handy when I've needed to quickly rescue a pal from a foxhound and need to beat it to that first bite. Once the weapon bores through pretty much just about anything, including literal walls, you can use it to blast through a few melee chumps if they are in between you and the disabler bullying your team. Equal parts satisfying and efficient if you ask me. My god are the breakpoints juicy on this weapon, with the shots to kill low enough that you can count them on one hand, even after a woodshop accident. Without reloading, there's a high chance you can kill every specialist or elite on screen, and can still do so with extreme speed, precision, and even distance if needed. The primary drawbacks are that this weapon has one of the worst reload animations in the game. I mean, aesthetically, of course, it's pretty cool, but my god is it unbearably slow to get through. And it's pretty vulnerable to ammunition droughts, and it's not particularly efficient at spending its reserves. A bit more forgiving with its light shots, but those heavy shots quickly add up, and you'll want to be careful to make sure you aren't blowing your load on horde chaff constantly and have nothing left for the March of the Ogrins that's just around the corner. But honestly, that's the price you pay for wanting to throw molten plasma balls into a crowd of heretical scum. The good news is that you can at least offset the ammunition issue by boosting the ammo stat for the weapon, and also shave off some time for our reload animation with reloading feats and a healthy dose of animation canceling tomfoolery. Because of Darktide's staged reloading mechanic, we can perform animation cancels using our sprint, which lets us round up, so to speak, the current stage that we are in and skip the tail end of the animation sequence. The reloading animation for the plasma gun is broken up into 3 stages. First is uncapping your tank, next replacing the cap, and then letting the top valve do a little dance once everything's seated. Each of these can be quickened with a well-timed sprint, the first stage being skipped as soon as the cap is taken off and the radiation confetti is coming out. Second stage just barely after having put the cap back on and giving it a turn. And the third as soon as the top valve has made its first rotation. The animation also has plenty of subtle audio clicks and whirls, so you can use these as a guide to better pinpoint the animation steps for yourself in practice. And it can be a little knacky and might not be the first thing you jump to when you're in the middle of a war zone with actual demons in it, but after some practice, you do get a natural feel for it, and you'll start doing it just automatically. Now with the weapon's base mechanics covered, let's talk stats for this weapon and what to look for. As with most weapons, damage and stopping power are good go-to stats to focus on, as they're going to provide the bulk of maximizing your damages. Mind though, you are still yielding a face-melting cannon from the year 40,000, so breakpoint-wise, single percentage points don't really rewrite the game for the weapon's performance. So try to get these as high as you can, but don't sweat if you can't get a perfect 80 or anything. The next stat to keep an eye on is charge rate. Right now, there is actually a weird interaction between charge rate and the damage done. That interaction isn't straightforward either. Low and high values of your charge rate somehow negatively affect your damage, for reasons only the weapon's machine spirits are privy to. Credit to YouTuber Telepots for testing and finding this out, and 71% charge rate seems to be the magic sweet spot to not have your charge rate negatively affect your damage outputs. At a max of 80%, you're still really only losing approximately 20 points of damage. This is hopefully a thing to be patched later, so if you pop past this value, it's not going to break your gun by any means. You're probably overkilling whatever you're shooting by more than 20 points anyway. Ammo is the next stat to keep an eye on, and this definitely shouldn't really be your dump stat if you can help it. You only get 2 clips, and that's inclusive to the one that comes preloaded in your gun, so it's not getting any better than that. With how much this gun eats your ammo and how little you come packaged with, dumping this stat won't just mean more lengthy reloads, it's going to seriously limit your ability to actually use this weapon before needing to take little melee timeouts to restock. And if you're playing with 3 heavy stubber ogrins that don't stop holding left click until their weapon stops vibrating, you'll be at the mercy of whatever you can scramble to first for ammo. And finally, you have thermal resistance. While ignoring this stat does mean you'll have to slightly more mindful of proper gun safety, the actual process of venting really isn't all that bothersome, so it's probably the best stat to dump if you need to. Even at low values, it still really just doesn't feel like it's building heat all that fast, unless you're just sitting on a charged shot like a lunatic. Now pairing this weapon with Blessings, you'll find the actual pick pool is a bit light with only 5 options to actually choose from. Blaze Away is likely going to be your best pick for the weapon, as it'll reward face melting spree with additional damage, and even just charging your weapon will maintain its stacks, letting you bide time for the next wave to keep you streak. Glory Hunter really isn't too bad as second pick, since maintaining 100% toughness is always a solid priority, and this can synergize with Confirmed Kill to give pretty amazing toughness returns on an elite kill. And with this gun being the Kill Stealer 9000, you're not really going to feel contested by your team in terms of being able to get the final blow credit, often with your first shot being your last shot. Volatile is also a good perk option, as it'll make your weapon snappier, increasing the fire rate of your light shots, and making the charge rate for heavy shots quicker per stack. Because of the issues with charge rate affecting damage, it can actually hurt your damage output if your charge rate is low, but by some feat of the Omnissiah, will actually increase your damage when your weapon has a higher charge rate stat instead. Hopefully all this gets smoothed out in a future patch, as these goofy interactions make building with this weapon needlessly confusing and counterintuitive. But until then, Volatile is best used if you're doubling down on a high charge rate stat rule, or don't mind a slightly less effective weapon while holding out for the patch. And again, when we say slightly less effective, we're really only talking about very small damage point value drops, and the perks you get from Volatile might just be honestly worth it anyway. And as for Gets Hot, it's okay. Since the weapon crit values don't really improve your damage that much, it's better to take another blessing over this that more meaningfully impacts your play. Though since you may be dodging Volatile due to your weapon's charge rate stat, and Glory Hunter can be a little bit redundant with existing toughness returns already being really good while running Confirmed Kill, you may still prefer this blessing, and that's completely fair. It's certainly not a pick I'd be mad about if it was locked to my weapon next to Blaze Away. And as for Shattering Impact, it's probably going to be the worst perk in the pool, since this gun kills so quickly on its own and already ignores armor basically by nature. Any degradation of a target's armor is basically just going to be an insult to fatal injury, as your teammates really aren't going to be the ones picking the kill if you're already aiming and shooting at it. As for your class feats, the weapon is pretty damn performant, so you aren't really going to be forced towards any specific picks. Unlike certain weapons, I would suggest Confirmed Kill as your top toughness feat for this weapon. While you can still hit weak points with the plasma, it's kinda overkill and hard to do without iron sights. Plus, with this being the aforementioned Kill Stealer 9000, we pretty much can use any special on the field as a toughness battery. As for the sniper feat, it may be nice if you're just on the precipice of being able to one or two shot an enemy and need just a little bit more to carry you over the breakpoint. But with the already existing Mega Ultra Super Duper damage, you can also opt pretty safely for quality of life reloads or countdown nades if that tickles your fancy more. And maybe this is a little bit more contentious, but I like to take a break from counterfire when running plasma, since this isn't really a weapon that I'm going to be mainlining like I would a Hellbore lasgun or autogun. While having infinite volley fire is super fun, all that really does is it starts encouraging me to be a bit too frivolous with my already limited ammo pool. Instead, I like to show those Ogrins who's boss with the bigger they are. That 75% extra damage towards Ogrins and monstrosities boosts this plasma gun's performance against the bulk of the units that can actually stand up to it. And with good stats, it can just straight one-shot crushers back to back. Not only is this an excellent power trip to have as just a simple lowly guardsman, but with how fast it can remove these threats, teammates that otherwise would have to dance a bulwark shields can rest easy knowing that it's blasted right back to Nurgle's gardens before it even got near him. But really, besides that, the rest of the feats really are more of a personal preference. Since the reload speed of the weapon is pretty poor, you may opt for a reload speed boost, and it's probably not a bad idea either. But with my super wrinkly bumpy brain, I generally just suffer through it for access of sniper and frag storm and just dump more damage into that meat grinder. And honestly, that's going to be about it for this video. If you like the video, drop a like. Comment if I missed anything. Have a great day. See ya.